All right, everybody. Here we are with no frills, no frills. We're just going to have a conversation. Three brothers and three microphones. We're going to talk about three issues. So this is Three the Hard Way, the inaugural conversation. And I know it's about to get hot. So we're just going to say at the outset, everybody loves each other. Let's just say that at the outset. Ain't nobody hating anybody. So anyways, our first topic that we want to talk about tonight is Jasmine Crockett. And the reason I want to talk about Jasmine Crockett is because my algorithm on TikTok has a bunch of people, especially Black men, talking about Jasmine Crockett, but also conservative Black women. And they are calling her an embarrassment. They're saying that she's ghetto. I sent y'all brothers a TikTok today. I don't think you got the right one. A brother saying, I can't stand her. I hate her. She's ghetto. She's this, she's that, blah, 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 whatever. And he's a whole pastor. He's a whole ass pastor talking about this woman like that, and she's an embarrassment and all that. So obviously I have some sort of feeling about that because I just feel like she's just doing her job. What do y'all think? Like in terms of help me understand what problem somebody might have with her just doing her job right now and being boisterous about the way that she does her job.
You want to take it, Charles, before I jump on that, or you want to go?
I feel like you can go right ahead, brother. I did.
All right. So here's my thing about this. I understand passion. I understand trying to make a name for yourself, and I understand positioning yourself to be able to be a thought leader or whatever. But here's the thing. I think your girl is doing too much. I think what's happening with this particular situation is she's creating a brand for herself that doesn't have anything to do with her politics. It's all about doing this sort of like this sister girl thing that was popular in the election that didn't win the election. But I feel like she's fallen into this narrative. She's fallen into this sort of persona that, first of all, is not really her. Apparently, when the Carfax come back, apparently she went to Cranbrook. She went to Cranbrook. That's a private school, dog. And a lot of the stuff that she's talking is not really who she is. And I feel like what's happening is one of two things. And I've said this before. I think the consultants that are in the ear of the establishment Democrats are saying that if we want to win people back, we got to stand on these stereotypes and we got to pull people in, especially when it comes to Black voters and Black women. I think she's feeding into that. And also, I feel like the things she's talking about sound good, like on podcasts, and they sound good, like on the Breakfast Club, but they're not going to pull people over when it comes to an electorate because I think people really do have a moral center at some point, even though it may not be hidden. And making fun of somebody who has a disability, or especially making fun of somebody because of who they marry, is the wrong way to go, especially the way the policies are going right now. People want tangibles and they want facts. They're not going for this stuff. They'll clap, but they're not going to go vote for it. That's my thoughts.
I can jump in, but I'll let you, if you want to have a rebut, brother. I didn't know if you wanted to.
I mean, my quick rebuttal to that is I feel like that's reading too much into it, just to be very honest with you. I've been paying a lot of attention to the Democrats. I haven't been a Democrat in years, never actually, but I've been the most Democrat that I've ever been in this last election. Like I started seeing, because I know where the real fight is. I know who the real enemy is. And Democrats have this way about spending all their time gut checking each other and themselves. And that it disables them from being able to take the fight where it really needs to go. And I feel like she's taking a fight where it needs to go because she's not worried about all this like personality nonsense. She's worried about making sure that she goes after the right people. And the reason I said this about the Democrats is what I've been watching them is they've got all these little voices. They got her, but they also have Matthew Frost, which is this really bright young brother from Florida. They've got Bashir, and Buttigieg always does his thing, whatever. They got this cacophony of voices out there of what she just won. She's just AOC, others, Ilhar, they all do their little thing in different places. What's the one in Michigan? The one with the bald head. What's the
I know you're talking about. I'm blanking on the name. I had it right here till you said that.
Until I said she was bald.
You're talking about Ilhan, right?
No.
No,
She's
not
part of the
Ilhan.
squad, though.
No, I'm trying to think of all the names of the squad. But yeah, I know what you're talking about.
So you know which one I'm talking about. She has her way of talking and doing things. AOC has her way of kind of a New York kind of, kind of almost preachy. Sounds like a little bit sometimes, I just feel like they're just a gang of voices. They each have their little thing. And she has her little thing. I don't care if she went to private school, man. That don't mean she can't talk. Like, she's from Texas. She's from Texas. You ever talk to somebody from Texas?
Yeah, I got people from Texas, but what I'm talking about is not so much. I'm talking about the fact that this neck rolling sort of like persona isn't really necessary. And I'm saying this. Look, the Democrats, as you said, just came off of worse defeat than Atlanta did when they played the Patriots and stuff. And a lot of that stuff that worked 3 or 4 years ago is not going to work. A lot of that talking greasy and a lot of that slick talk. It's like I said, it sounds good on the stump. Well, I take that back. It doesn't even sound good on the stump. It gets you sound bites and it gets you quotes. But people are really hungry for policy and they're hungry for solid results of what they're voting for. And I feel like what's happening, the Democrats are right here punching air and they don't really know where to go. So they're just throwing everything at the wall. And unfortunately, when it comes to the Black electorate, what we get, I've been a hard critic of this for the last 4 years. I think a lot of this electric slide, fish fry, greasy talk is not getting us anywhere. And it's time to talk to Black people like they talk to everybody else. Come down with a policy plan. Okay, we got our ass beat. Okay, now what do we do? How can we win people back? And I feel like the way you win people back is with policy and with just talking to people like they're full-grown adults. That's on me.
Yeah, I think as the person who's been the longest Democrat here, no interruption. I'm still a Democrat. I've been one. Don't know, whatever. And I was disappointed in them from the beginning, from the jump. But I think that just how we handle things. Here's what I think, just kind of falling in the middle. I think that Jasmine Crockett is definitely qualified for her job. She's done what she needed to do. She is a certified lawyer. She's a lawyer out here. During Black Lives Matter, she did work pro bono to support that. I think where a lot of people are getting offended, and we're going to have a real conversation, is it feels like manufactured authenticity. I think that it feels like to people that you're acting and doing a little bit extra. I think that we saw it work with Lauren Boebert and all that stuff. I messed up her name, sorry. But I look at it, it's cringy when the white lady does it too. And then they had their little tiss where it got to a point where Lauren was like, let's take it outside or whatever, right? I think that all of that is kind of an embarrassment to that space. But here's the thing. I'm not about to tone police people. I just don't know if it's true authenticity. I've seen her early interviews and there was a switch somewhere, and I think things have worked. And I think that those polls came back and said, people like you. I think she's on her way to being a star. But is this the way that we want you to be a star? We want you to be a star because you can talk hood with everybody else, or because you actually the brightest and the best and you about to outdo these people on policy. I think, and I don't want to be obtuse in like my conversation about this. I can be nuanced. I can appreciate and respect and say she deserves to be there, but I also am not confused as to why people might be offended. I think that when they say like people see that as a caricature of what Black people do and act like, and there are gonna be people that watch.
Do you though? I mean, because like, listen,
I'm gonna be clear. Like, it don't feel clear to me.
There's people in my family that sound just like her. I don't consider them embarrassment at all.
I didn't say she was an embarrassment. I didn't. So let me go. Because I know who listens. I know who watches this stuff. I'm not saying she's an embarrassment, and I'm saying she deserves to be there. But It feels inauthentic at times. And as somebody who grew up in certain places, I can tell when people faking the funk. Let me tell you how I can tell. When straight white people sound like they talking like a Black woman or a gay Black person. Like when they saying stuff like it's giving or it's serving and you a straight man, I feel like you're pandering. Like, because that's not, that vernacular doesn't fit you. It's not yours. It's just not, right? Yeah. Like there are telltale signs when you like, oh, he's a narc. Like, bruh is not from here. He's not doing that. And I think that sometimes, like with this, I think it's playing well, and I think she's on her way to being a star. I just, there are going to be people watching this, and I'm telling you, if you're a young person and got a kid, that will get you fired in what you do. You cannot go and do what you see these people doing. And I think that's my bigger point, man. But I didn't mean to cut you off, Chris.
No. I was just jumping in, so I was cutting you off. So
it's all good. You ate my brother.
That's great. All good.
I appreciate the opportunity. But let me say this: I've been watching a ton of liberal media, like a ton. I mean, if you were to pull up my YouTube right now, it is 100% more than it's ever been in my entire life geared towards liberal media and liberal podcasters and liberal voices. All the people you would know. Hassan and all these other people. When they pull up Jasmine Crockett and they're talking about her, none of it is about all this cosmetic nonsense. None of it is about tone policing or how she talks or how she looks or any of that. 100% of it is she's one of the few people who aren't playing the respectability thing, who is challenging people in those rooms on very specific policy issues that they are bringing up. She will read from the bill and call you out on every part of the bill That's a problem.
Nobody got an issue with that.
No. But see, everybody's missing that part as they're dealing with the cosmetics, except for the liberals.
I didn't.
The liberals who are pulling her up because the liberals are putting her just in a group of other people. There's some Democrats right now that are sounding very polite when they're sitting in these hearings where there's legislation that is absolutely going to kill people, right? And then there's a handful of Democrats that get loud. As a matter of fact, like Matt Frost got kicked out. He got kicked out of a hearing because he was just going to say what he was going to say, right? He's a very articulate brother, but he was going to say what he was going to say. They kicked him out, right? Crockett got to the point where girls told her, hey, if you want to go outside, let's do this right now, right? Mm-hmm. And I think the girl who told her that is into CrossFit. So, it was a real,
it was a
real threat. Yeah, it was a real threat because
CrossFit. So, it could have been a situation for real. Yeah,
could have really been a situation because she runs a whole Georgia CrossFit outfit. So Jasmine might have been in a little trouble in that situation. But anyways, I'm making light of it. But my only point is to say is that when I watch the clips of her, I'm not watching for all the style stuff. I'm watching for what she got to say about these bills that are crazy.
I agree with that. And what I'm saying is I feel like there's a way to do that without doing all that is my point. I think there's a thing, and there's been studies done on this where I think it was a Harvard study done 3 or 4 years ago that said white liberals tend to talk down when they're talking to black audiences. And I think a lot of that mentality has filtered through not the consumer class, but through the consultant class. And a lot of these people are getting their information and getting their talking points and getting their direction from a lot of that consultant class. And a lot of them are saying, if you want to talk to black people, or if you want to talk to people in general, but because you're a black person, you're a black congressperson, there's a certain cadence and a certain way you have to speak to get everybody else on board. And I feel like this Pearl Bailey sort of version of talking to people is not really working for everybody.
Pearl Bailey.
Yes, I said Pearl Bailey. I'm saying, look, man, black people, look, brother, black people are just as intelligent and just as articulate as anybody else. And I'm not saying that in any sort of respectability politics way. I'm saying that from a respectability politics point that black people can be spoken to without doing all that performative stuff. You ain't got to come in and bopping and all that sort of stuff because that's just no different than somebody coming into the hood doing the same thing.
Well, not all black people are the same. Not all black people talk the same way.
Exactly. But then if that's the case, then how come all the messaging that goes out to black audiences and black constituents sounds the same?
It doesn't always sound the same.
It's always fit. Come on, bro. It's always fit.
Some of it sounds Obama, and Obama's very much an elitist, and a lot of the black Democrat males are Obama. They're doing the Obama thing where they sound like they were Harvard Law Review. You got your black Democrats doing that whole thing, and then you have some that are elected from counties and places where they sound just like where they got elected from.
That's
right?
true.
So they're not talking to black people in one way. But I will ask you this: Maxine Waters went through this for years, right?
Mm-hmm.
Style, not the substance. That woman got so much past in a time that she's the black Nancy Pelosi in some ways because she knows how to.
You got to talk to people in her district.
You know how she.
It ain't always sweet in her district with her. I'm telling you as a Democrat that had worked in the party. It was.
I'm never gonna say anything about anybody that's perfect.
No, I listen.
I'm just gonna say that woman for years, Trump called her low IQ. Other people didn't like her wig. A lot of people didn't like the way she talked. They didn't love the accent that she had or whatever. She went through this for years, right? All I'm going to say about it is, I know you brothers are going to disagree.
I think she's authentically.
I don't know any black men who are Democrats who go through this tone policing
all the time.
Which ones? Which ones?
Well, one, it happened to me when I was an officer.
No. I mean the elected ones, the ones with power.
Let's see. We got that a lot with what's the brother from New Jersey, Cory Booker. Absolutely, Cory Booker gets called out for being phony all the time. Because
I don't mean being phony. I mean like he doesn't get called out for being inarticulate, talking down to black people.
When he tries to jive stuff up, when he tries to talk like he's from certain places, he has definitely been called to the cart and people like, bro, you're not like that. I'm just saying these things do happen.
I'll have to look it up for him.
We can look it up. I mean, we can find it.
He very much, in my opinion, he does the Obama thing.
But I want to be clear. No, he does whatever's going to try to get him elected. Like when he popped up with a girlfriend. Listen, man. Are we going to talk? We about to tell the truth or what we doing?
I want to tell you this. At least he popped up with a good one.
Listen, I'm not mad at it. But the point is,
I was a little surprised.
Nobody cares if he popped up with a girlfriend or a not girlfriend or whatever the case is. Yeah. It's just that when something feels performative and something feels off, And when people call it out, you can't. I mean, I don't think people are crazy. I said from the gate that this woman is more than qualified, that she actually is a rising star. I think that the disheartening piece that Torrin was pointing out, I don't want to speak for him, but what I've heard other people say is she's doing what she thinks a Black person sounds like in this moment.
That's it, right there.
And that's the thing that is offending a lot of people, not everybody. And I see a lot of white people mimicking Jasmine Crockett. I see a lot of white people doing her TikToks and doing the voiceover thing and being her and doing that stuff and giving them license to kind of do the hair roll things like that. And it pisses some people off. I'm not saying that necessarily pisses me off. What I'm saying is, if that's who you genuinely are, then be you. God bless, and I got your back. But if it's not, then be yourself. Like let's have a message that we can be smart, educated, talented, and talk like we talk. And I say this to somebody that speaks like that for real. Like, I know how I sound, I know how I talk, and I get messages all the time. Or what are you gonna say? Or can we read what you wrote? No, you can't. Either you want me or you don't. So but here's the thing: if she's playing the game, look, I'm actually not mad that a Democrat is like, let me be smart. If this is what's gonna work, if this is what we gotta do to rile it up. But I'm also not crazy for feeling like a little of this feels a little forced at times. And I do think that she gets a little bit of license to say things that other people don't. And it's fine, but let's just call but a spade is a spade. I think she's dope. I think she's smart. I think she's talented. So nobody can take that and run. I'm not attacking this woman at all, but we're not going to act like there aren't a large amount of Black people that's also like, come on, man, you ain't got to do all that. That's all. That was my only point.
How do you quantify the size of the number of Black people that are doing that? Because she's got very high favorability ratings. So how do you know how many Black people are actually doing it? All I see on TikTok are Black men who do that with all Black women.
I've seen.
How do you know? How do you mean? How do you mean, Chris? Can you clarify that a little bit further?
Well, when I hear a lot of Black people are offended, right? First of all, a lot of Black people ain't paying attention. So let's just put it that way. First of all, people ain't waking up saying they're mad because Jasmine Crockett sounds like she's from Texas. No, nobody's waking up and saying that.
I don't think she sounds like she's from Texas, but
no, she sounds very much like exactly where she's from.
Okay,
she sounds just like the people where she's from.
Right.
Talk to any of them.
I do. Actually, I'm outside, bro. Like this thing, I'm outside, and again, sometimes you can just tell when something's trendy. And something is trending, and you landed on something, and you ride it out. And I think she landed on something. She's riding it out. Now, again, if it works,
that she's talking and she's doing this thing is something she started because there was a trend.
I'm not. Man. Oh, go ahead, Torrin.
I think, like I said before, I think this is a show, and I feel like, and look, I understand that half of politics is performative and putting on a show for people. Right. I'm just saying that I feel like after coming off the defeat that the Democrats had in 2024. After having 2 to 4, damn near 6 years of this sort of like pop locking and electric slide, and then you can add 10 more years on top of it. If you talk about the protest movement, it got turned into a fish fry and turned into a whole. I mean, you know how I feel about that. This whole protest movement, it got turned away from police brutality into like crumping on the street, pop locking and painting murals on the street like a child, like we don't do the right thing. I feel like people are tired of that, and I think people are ready, and they've really been ready for somebody to just come down, be straight with them and say, hey, these are the policies. This is what we're up against. This is what we want to see. You ain't got to do all that. I think people are just tired of it because they've seen that it hasn't gotten any results at this point. People need something else besides that. That's just my feeling.
Yeah, I think she's about to be a star. I think she's on the Black Caucus, the Progressive Caucus, the Equality Caucus. I think she's on the Caucus for Equal Rights. She is setting. I think she's doing some smart things. I think that she is also the daughter of a father who is a preacher and a teacher, so I think that she understands how to speak and cadence and the rhythm of those things. I'm not knocking anybody for being smart, but if in listening to you have this conversation, because again, not my topic, that's why I let y'all go first. I hear what you're saying, Chris, and I think she can be revered and she can be praised as a rising star and supported, and she should be. She's a smart Black woman who earned her spot. Nobody's saying she didn't. But I also hear what Torrin is saying, and I understand where he's coming from, that some of it feels performative. I've watched, if you go watch early conversations from her when she first won, when she was first putting things on, she sounded different. And maybe she just did have an epiphany. Maybe things changed. Maybe one day she woke up and was like, fuck this. I'm not doing that no more.
Maybe she wasn't in Congress listening to people pass crazy bills and having people come at her crazy.
Okay. That doesn't negate anything I just said.
Oh, it does. Yeah, it does. Because you would talk one way. Listen,
Wait,
as somebody who ran for office, there's a way that you will talk on the campaign trail.
No,
I didn't ran for office.
You have to.
And
you got to listen.
You will talk on in a meeting.
I need you to listen to hear me as opposed to like rebutting me. What I'm saying is this, right? I'm saying that when she was in, she had already won. She's already there. Early on, she just sounded a little different on the floor than what she sounds like now. And I said, maybe something happened. And she said, hey, this is just who I am now. This is what I'm doing, and I'm shifting. That doesn't negate anything that you just said. I've not discredited her as a intellectual, as somebody smart, and somebody who might know politics and might be playing the fox, right? I don't know. But what I'm saying is, if you think that there aren't people on MSNBC in these halls on CNN or what the new Democrat needs to be after that loss, and they're saying we're gonna black it up, we're gonna do this with we're gonna sound a different way, and we're gonna redefine authenticity. What I'm saying is that in and of itself is not authentic. That's the only point that I'm making. That's it. And again, I'm rooting for her. If she got some good, I think she has some good policies underneath, and I think it's smart to play the game a little bit. All I'm saying is I'm not gonna act like Torrance crazy off of what he said, because I have seen men and women, black, be like, it's a lot happening right now. It's a lot happening right now. That's all I said.
Mm-hmm.
Chris, where you at?
I mean, I don't know what to say, because honestly, it has nothing to do with me. I'm watching what she does. So she's doing everything I need her to do.
But that's not part of what she does?
No, it's not. Actually, she's doing what I need her to do. We're in a very specific moment right now with the policies that are being talked about, that are being passed, that are being written up.
Got it.
That the substance of what is about to happen to us right now, I think we will be on our way to the camps on the trains, before anybody will figure it out. Before anybody will figure it out, right?
Okay.
I mean, and it's not, there you go. We already have people that have already been hurt. There was a consequential
people get hurt
difference.
in every single administration, man. Every single one. I love Obama. I'm an Obama
that would be
guy.
Obama, you could say that.
Obama
You could say that though, as a way to never pay attention to anything that's happening today, though. You could say that in every administration as a way to not pay attention to what's going on right now.
But you know what, Chris? Let me so
hold on one second. Let me say this. So in Philly, they bomb Move.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so what? We've bombed people before,
and that's not what I'm doing, man.
We bomb people. I mean, every administration has bombed people.
Right? Chris, let me say this, brother.
I hear steal. Oh, you know what? They always been doing this to brothers. So let's not march. Let's not get out there.
Chris, let me say this though, for real, bro. This is what I'm talking about. I listen. I hear your points and I hear what you're saying. But what I'm saying is, like, we've already come through one Trump administration, and now we're in the midst of a second one. And all the way leading up into the second administration, to your point, people weren't talking about policy. All people heard for the last year and a half was Trump gonna get you. If you don't vote, the boogeyman gonna get you. If you don't do this, he gonna put you back in the cotton fields and stuff like this. And you gotta give people some tangibles outside of giving people the boogeyman. It's just like having a check.
You think that's what they heard for real? You think that's what people heard?
Yeah, people look, man. Let me say this.
Did those people read the Project 2025?
Yeah, I knew that was coming. Here's what people do,
you didn't know this was coming. Did they read it?
No, let me listen. This is what I'm saying, brother. If the whole thing about Project 2025, all you heard, which was part of what you were saying before, was like Project 2025 gonna get you, Trump gonna get you, Trump gonna get you. That's all people said, but nobody went into the details of why this was dangerous. It was just basically shut up and vote, or this gonna get you. Like you're trying to get a child to go to bed. Like if you don't get to bed, then the boogeyman finna come out the closet and get you. People get fatigue on that. And there's a thing called media fatigue. When you keep hitting people over and over and over with the same story, but you don't give them any kind of meat to go with this headline, people gonna get tired and they're gonna tune you out. And that's what happened last year. And you're gonna have to come with something better than that, because people gonna tune it out. Even though what you say that might be valid, the way you can kind of create consent for what may be happening is if you keep scaring people and not giving a payoff. It's like going to the movies. If you see a jump scare movie and all you get is jump scares every 5 minutes, you're gonna be like, man, let me turn the TV and see what else is on. You got to do better than that. It ain't gonna work. That's just the way.
I agree with that part. I do believe our people have to do better. I will agree with that part.
And I will say this. There's a lot of atrocities that's happened to us as Black people and will continue to happen. And I am not conflating this with like the bombing in Philadelphia or these other things. I'm not even saying that she's not on the right track. I'm only responding to the topic of this person and authenticity and those things like that. But I would hear that. My thing is this. I believe in logic. I was a debater in high school. I believe that there are rules to logic. So if we don't have an issue with people's language here, and that's fine. If we're saying that we don't have an issue with that, then cool. When somebody on the other side say something crazy and out of pocket in the same type of way, but it's pushing a policy, then it's like, then cool. We can't scream bloody murder when that happens. What's good for the goose got to be good for the gander. That's the only, if we're good with it, then we good with it now. But we pick and choose a lot of the time, the same way, like some of the arguments that she's made up against some other people, we pick and choose when that argument works versus when it doesn't. And I just want to know what we're playing as. If that's what we own, I will support her. Like I told you, if she got something that's gonna help Black people, I don't give a damn how she do it. Let's do it. I got you. I got your back. And Miss Crockett, I truly mean that if you ever get this, right? Like I'm not rooting against you. I'm not gonna root against her to get what she needs to. But I will tell you this to young people that's watching. You're gonna watch that, and if you try to duplicate it, it might not go well for you. I'm just letting you know from experience. I'm letting you know as somebody who's went through it and has been ostracized from it and who had to learn from it. But I'm rooting for our people. I'm not talking about anything else. We can have that conversation, but I was separated from this general topic. Oh, you got some people commenting too. They was
we got some of our old folks coming back around. And I don't mean old in terms of age. I just mean folks that have been watching us and listening to us talk about these things for a long time. Here's what I'll say. Listen. I am so knee deep in policy world right now that it's hard for me to understand this part of the conversation because I'm so far into the policies and what they mean and what they do and who's going to be affected by them. So when you live that far in policy world and you hear that people need to be persuaded or that people need to be like coaxed into understanding what's about to happen to them, or people poo-poo what these policies actually are and do, it's hard to understand when you are living in the specifics of the policies every day and you're anticipating what policies do, because policies are power. Policies make things happen, right? Like these are people, but these aren't really people. These are programs and policies. That's all they really are. That's all they represent to me. It's kind of like Street Fighter. Hey. Which Street Fighter you put in at, if you ever played Tekken, Zhao Yu was the one I always picked, because Zhao Yu had some secret moves. She could take anybody down, right? The Capoeira brother always got his ass kicked, so I would never put him in onto anything. Sorry to my brother. Sorry to my brothers in Brazil.
I like my little drunken master routine, man. I got
listen, dancing. All he did was dancing. He's supposed to be fighting, and he's dancing.
I used to play the game when I was younger.
Yeah. You never played Torrent? You never played Tekken?
I was a Street Fighter Mortal Kombat kid.
I like Mortal Kombat more than all of them. Gotcha. Yeah.
I like to see people get skinned and burnt up and stuff like that. That was my.
Well, see, that's morbid. But see, in the beginning, you know how you pick your fighter, right? For the specific battle you think you'll fight. That's how I feel about these things, these policy battles, is who you gonna throw in to the match at different times.
Yeah. And look, but honestly, you know me, and this is why it's funny. If you know me, you know I don't really code switch. It's not who I am. I'm gonna be me. I'm gonna be authentic. But I feel like you know me. I feel like it doesn't feel different. It feels like it hasn't necessarily switched. But again, if that's the strategy, then that's the strategy, and get us to the promised land. But I do see that she's a star. She's a star in the rising, and you gotta figure out what you want that stardom to be. Don't box yourself in. That's all I would say. And Torin, I just looked on your thing, man. You got over 300 people watching this, brother. So appreciate you bringing your people.
Oh man, I do what I can. And just for everybody who's listening, this is a new show that me and these other two brothers have started called Three the Hard Way. My name's Torin Walker. This is Dr. Charles Cole III and Chris, who's calling himself Christopher ICU for some reason on here today. I don't know what that's about. I hope you're all right. But this is Chris Stewart. He's a very prominent educator based in the Midwest. I think this might be a good place to segue if y'all are down for it.
Segue. Let's do this. Next topic.
All right.
Ding, topic 2.
All right. This next topic is kind of unpleasant, but it needs to be said. Apparently, in New York State, there was a psychologist, Micah Hayes. She has been accused and facing 65 criminal sex abuse charges. She was a psychologist at a youth detention center. Apparently, there were 2 unknown plaintiffs, or one is now 21, who was 17 when the abuse started. He started at Brookwood Youth Facility it's a youth facility in New York for minors under the age of 16 who are awaiting trial. The accused psychologist also faces charges after a Columbia County grand jury indicted her in 2024, allegedly abusing 8 victims between the ages of 16 and 18 from 2020 to 2022. Hayes has pled not guilty and was released pending her trial, which is set to take place in July. Now, what's interesting about this is that the accused psychologist is a black woman, and the majority, as far as we can tell, of her victims were young black boys. And I mentioned this on my Twitter feed, and I made a comment with that where I said that it's kind of ironic that this particular story isn't getting the sort of traction it may get if this is a male psychologist guilty of the same sort of content. And what I got was a lot of people pushing back at me for even having the audacity to even mention that, instead of pushing back on the danger and the trauma that these boys allegedly have faced. So I wanted to talk about that. And I wanted to talk about, why are we selective about when we talk about abuse and when we talk about mental health for black children? How come it seems to be one way when it should be universal and it's not one way or the other? Why are people so upset at being at a case like this coming to prominence, when if we're supposed to be talking about the well-being of young children? How come it's not fair like that way? So that's my thought on it. So let me throw it over to you, brothers.
Well, I'll jump in on this one, and then I would say this, and I'm gonna be very direct and blunt, and no code switching needed. You're gonna get this for me.
Let's do it.
I don't think people really care about black kids, especially black boys. I think black boys are very valuable when they're ailing or when they're dead, and I think that's part of the reason. I don't think those protections are there. And it is what it is, and we're really aware of it. And I know over time, people have tried to kind of tempt that. I studied black boys during my doctorate, and I got a lot of pushback around talking about them, and they tried to discourage me from talking about them, solely them, and focusing on them. These are the people that create the ed programs, right? And so I just think that unless you get to an astronomical number, I don't even think we'd be hearing this if it was a solo or double or maybe triple case. Chris, I won't steal your thunder, but I do love your line, and you better write the book before somebody steals it. But he says, black kids are the new cotton, and meaning it's like they are cash crop for a lot of professionals, and a lot of those professionals tend to be white people, white professionals. And I'm not turning this into necessarily a race thing per se, but what I'm saying is our value is only seen in demise. It's only seen when we're sick, when we're in jail, when we're uneducated, or when we're murdered, when we're dead. The same way that there were criticisms about a group when a black man died that built a whole organization and then took black boys completely off of the website and ended up buying mansions. It is a cycle that we see over and over and perpetually, and I can land that plane there. But that's my general response.
Charles, you heard me say this before. I would encourage anybody to pull up Google right now, and type in teacher arrested, and then put it on the image tab so you can see the pictures of teachers that have been arrested. And what I want you to do is pay attention to what the faces look like, and then pay attention to what gender and race pops up a lot. Mm-hmm. And then go and look what the cases are, and it will shock you. And I'm going to tell you something else that's going to shock you right now. If you're in public schools, there's a 1 in 10 chance that in your lifetime, you will be the victim of sexual misconduct by a staff member. And again, I'm saying that 1 in 10, 1 in 10, if you know 10 kids and point them out, you can say to yourself, there's a good chance that one of them, 1 in 10, there's 50 million kids in public schools right now. So I don't know what the math on it, Charles, you don't want with the doctorate. So I don't know what the math would be on all that, like 50 million kids, 1 in 10. It's a lot of kids.
That's 5 million. Yeah.
See, this is why you do a show with smart Negroes, right? Like, because he just said it's 5 million. Well, listen, that's a lot of people. That's a lot of young people. And guess what? Guess who? This ain't going to surprise anybody. Guess who's the bigger victims when it comes to this? The poorer you get, and the browner you get, the blacker you get, and in the school districts where you have all those things happening, it's going to happen more often. And there's going to be very light slaps on the wrist to the offenders. And it's going to be because when you look at those pictures that I told you to pull up, it's going to be because a lot of those are white women. This started happening probably about 6, 7, 8 years ago, 9 years ago, that it was a trend of like 20 something white female teachers and a lot of black boys. Right. And there was the way that we talk about this type of abuse is different. When it's a boy, we talk about it one way. When it's a girl, we talk about it a different way. Right. And especially when it's a black boy, we talk about, it's almost like you're lucky to have that happen. I don't mean to douse anybody, but there was one case, Charles, you heard me talk about this before, where when the kid was 15, something like that, and got the teacher pregnant. And when he turned 18, he was on the hook for child support.
Yeah. I think, didn't they get back together too?
No, you're talking about Letourneau. Yeah, you're
That was
talking
the
about
Letourneau case, wasn't it?
Yeah, you're talking about Letourneau. No, this wasn't Letourneau. That's how many cases there are.
Right.
That when you say
you can mix them up.
What about that? Yeah. What about that one? What about that other? There was one high school that had 4 teachers that were on the hook for it in a row.
The same high school?
Same high school in Louisiana, all white women. Right? All white women.
That's crazy.
Right?
That's wild.
So anyways, I don't know if that contributes to the conversations you're talking about, but I do think that it's more prevalent than people think, and it's treated differently.
Well, no, the point I was making with that is this. I can't say it shocked me because I really wasn't shocked. What I was shocked about was the response that I got because people were mad at me for even bringing up the fact that this happened and bringing up that it was a black psychologist that had this happened that allegedly perpetrated these crimes. My point is, if a lot of the conversation we were talking about in black communities is talking about educating our children, educating our youth, and making sure that our children are safe and they can have somewhere to learn and they can be safe and they don't have to worry about being victimized. And a lot of that conversation is led by black educators, and a lot of them happen to be women. And this is not a dig on black women who are psychologists and not black women who are educators. I'm talking about this one particular case should be one that black women who are supposed to be so adamant about defending their children and being safe, about having their children be safe, they should be the first ones in line to say this should be condemned and this needs to be dealt with. You know what I'm saying? And that's why I was shocked why so many people were mad at me for talking about it when that's actually my job. But you're more mad at me about doing that than the fact that this allegedly happened. That's what I was tripping off of.
Mm-hmm.
That's my point.
You know why you got that response, Torrent. You always act like, I wonder why I got this response. You be pushing people to that response. What are you talking about?
How am I pushing people by holding up a mirror?
Listen, I've watched your feed. You know exactly which buttons you're pushing.
Is it poetic that I'm in the middle of y'all in this split screen situation? Also, by the way, Chris, the comments are going crazy. I don't know if you want to add some of those up there. Our live viewership is over 400 right now. Keep going. You all keep commenting as Chris sees them. I'm sure he'll start getting some up there or whatnot. If I would try to help you, but I can't, brother. I don't have the access for it, but continue, y'all. I'm sorry. I'm doing the producer thing.
I mean, listen, I was only making the point that Torrent knows when he's pushing buttons. Like you'll say, "Oh, I was surprised by the feedback I got on that one." Really? At this point, you still surprised?
No, but let me explain that though, because I say what I say. I didn't when I say these things, I don't say this to try to like demonize anybody. I'm just saying like, coming from somebody who understands the way that these media narratives can get pushed and they become mainstream and how the power of media can make a story bigger than it is. I'm just saying that when I'm talking about people who, I said this before, if a brother in West Mayberry, Mississippi goes on a date and he doesn't open the car door for his girlfriend, somebody will get that video and it'll become viral. They'll have that dude's DNA blood work and his whole record by the time the night's over with. So if people can go on Twitter and be able to pull that stuff up, and how come you can't talk about this story that is a national story that's been reported by CNN, MSNBC, and you can't talk about that? So I'm saying the core isn't about trying to demonize any one group of people. I'm saying if the core of what your mission is and what you say you believe in is defending black kids from being victimized and defending them in the school system, why not bring this up as a case of somebody who should be condemned instead of doing this and pretending it doesn't exist and going bird box? That's my point.
What were some of the comments that you got? Like, what were people saying?
Oh, let me see. Oh, I'm glad you asked. Let me pull it up real quick. I got people who were saying, basically, the gist of everything I said was why you bringing this up and everything, and why you attacking sisters. And I didn't attack sisters. I'm saying that was reprehensible and disgusting. But I'll read them off verbatim real quick. Okay, let's see what I got. Most people told me to shut up. I had a few people telling me,
damn, for real?
Are people really following me? And some guy said instead of focusing on the victimization of boys in juvenile detention centers, you're online fomenting gender wars. And I did not do that. I said this one particular case is disgusting. How come we're not talking about it? Why we're pretending to be up under the rug? Somebody said little boys are not men. Somebody else told me I'm cleaning them up for you because I don't know how the channel of the show gonna go. Somebody said I can't believe one time.
You'll have to clean them up.
Somebody said I can't name a single time since being on social media for the last decade it wasn't women calling out how folks overlook men and boys, and this is not true. I'm just saying that this is a reprehensible case. It's disgusting. It's just discussing if this was like smaller children or girls or anything. And I feel like all these kids need to be protected, and they deserve justice. And I'm saying talking about a thing does not mean you're endorsing a thing, and talking about a thing is not as bad as trying to hide it and pretend it doesn't exist. So what I did was I called out the dichotomy between this particular case, because the alleged perpetrator is a Black woman, and anybody else who might have been any other gender or gender identity. And we know it would be different. It would be
So
on
that's
TV all
what was
along.
important to you. And what was important about this case was that it was a Black woman who did it, and not enough people were talking about it because you think it was being silenced because she was a Black woman perpetrator.
Yes, I don't think that wasn't the main thing, but I think the main thrust for me was that these were children who were allegedly victimized, and if these children are allegedly victimized, why should the identity of the person who did it be a factor in whether we talk about this or not? And I think that's where I was going with it, because I felt like it was being suppressed and it wasn't being talked about enough because of that. So yeah, I did stand on that. I think that was an important
You
thing,
thought
because
that the reason that the story wasn't getting enough play was because she was a Black woman, and someone was making a decision that because there was a Black woman perpetrator, they weren't gonna talk about it.
yes, that's exactly what I
Mm.
believe. That's what I felt. Because we know if it was different, it would be all over everywhere. It would be in the news. It would be in areas where it wouldn't even be connected to like that particular case. And I feel like that doesn't really do anybody any favors. And I also feel like a lot of people are so invested in this this narrative that if you have one gender identity, then you're inherently violent, or you have the propensity for violence. And if you belong to another gender identity, then you're automatically absolved from being a perpetrator and being something like that. I feel like that's what the case is. I don't think that's true, but I think a lot of people have internalized that and they believe that, maybe even subconsciously, and that kind of like informs how they move.
You don't think that men are more responsible for violence than women?
Depends on how you mean. Are you talking about proxy violence, or are you talking about direct violence?
I'm just talking about, like, who commits the most murders.
No, I agree. Yeah, men on the statistics say that men tend to commit the most murders. But what does that have to do with this particular case, though?
Who starts the biggest wars?
That's relative. Who's in office at the time a war goes on? Go to my ear was a woman. So I mean, who's to say? But so was Margaret Thatcher. So I mean, are we doing case by? But what does that have to do with this particular case? Is what I'm saying.
Margaret Thatcher was very masculine. she was masculine as hell. She was trans before trans was cool. Listen, I'm just playing with you. I'm trying to see where you're going.
Straight face the whole time. Whole time. You see this straight face. I didn't move. Neither way.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. I'm playing with the concept, just like, so I see a lot of people say this particular story that I found is being suppressed. And I'm not saying this about you, Torn. I'm saying this about a lot of people saying that about different stories, right? And it's funny that my algorithm will feed me certain stories, and I'll be like, why isn't anybody talking about this particular thing? And it's because it got fed up in my algorithms for some reason, and I feel like no one else is talking or knows about it. But I mean, I hear right-wing people saying that the media is suppressing everything because the media is liberal. And then I hear liberal people saying that the media is suppressing things because it's corporate. And keep going down the list. And you were in journalism, so you know a little bit more than all of us about like how it works in newsrooms type of things, like how you decide what you're going to print, publish, or whatever. But that's all I was testing it on. Do you think like in newsrooms and places like that, they're literally saying, well, this is a Black woman perpetrator, so we probably shouldn't put this story out there?
Because like I said, I find the story on MSNBC, so the story is out there. But there's also the fact that you can have a story out there, and depending on how you word the headline and depending on how you word the lead, that depends on what kind of reach it gets, is my point. You know what I mean? Because look, speaking to somebody who was a veteran of that world, everything comes down to, can you grab people's attention right away? And then once you grab their attention, can you hold their attention long enough for them to get past the headline and listen to the rest of the story? And social media has completely skewed that algorithm now. You can put out something completely crazy and you will get people ginned up about the article. And I'm gonna give people some free game here now. You can get people excited about the article and talking about the article, and 90% of the people don't even read the article. They just see the headline and they see the picture and they don't like what they saw, and then it becomes a whole thing that runs for two or three days. And while it's going on, the news site is racking up clicks. And then you ask people what the story was about, and they can't tell you because they're running off what they thought about the story.
This one, as someone who runs multiple media platforms, I can tell you this is true. The right picture, the right picture, the
They
right
agree.
headline, right picture, and the right headline is the story. In a lot of
Mhm.
people's case, that is their reading. Their reading is like, I saw the picture, I saw the headline. This was a good article.
I know Twitter started asking, don't you want to read the article before you share it now?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like they like, we know you didn't click this. You just are sharing it with a caption.
I felt that was intrusive when they started doing that. I was
No,
like,
I think it
don't
was
try
saying
and
y'all
call
don't
me
read.
out.
It's saying y'all illiterate. And now it's my turn to do a little bit of extrapolation, right? I'm looking at it like this, right? I think on this one, I'll push back a little bit, Torrin. I think it has a lot more to do with that it's black boys than who the person is. I actually think that the other side would have jumped on it like red meat if they would have saw that it was a black woman with black boys. I think, but let me even moving from this particular case to larger. I think when you just look at how our black kids, black boys, black whatever are actually educated and the lack thereof. I think we talk about everything around. We spend a lot of time we do a lot of work like on identity. We do a lot of work on how to be an activist. We do a lot of things that start to happen there, and we've been really missing. Hey man, this is how you teach somebody how to read. This is how you teach somebody how to do basic arithmetic. And I think that our penchant to be like, well, forget that test, or we hate tests, or we hate this thing in which we measure you by, and not filling in that void with something else has led to even more black kids in a more lucrative societal time where there's more money than ever. We now have more black kids, especially black boys, who cannot read and can't read on grade level. And that's never the topic. It's always something else. We measuring the wrong thing, or that thing is racist. And here's the thing. I will say this. Then find me a new mass metric that we can do an apples to apples comparison of who's learning and who is not. But we've been talking about that for over 20 years, and the new metric has not been implemented, right? So I think that means a lot. I think that means a lot in this. I think, like I said, Chris, I keep stealing your thunder because you just ain't going there. I thought you would say this thing, but again, as somebody who works in education, trying to educate black boys, you are automatically put in a position. I got young people that's in my company that I run that are about to be graduating, become educators, and they're black men. And before they actually step foot in their official class, they are already receiving all these negative kind of intonations about the black boys that they want to go teach. Well, you got to be tougher on that one. You got to do this. And you can look at all these unconscious bias studies, right? Where it's like, okay, look at this video. Who is out of line? Who's the aggressor? And nobody's actually out of line or the aggressor, but the black kid, the black boy has all these marks against him, right? Like that's the system that we're talking about. So of course, in that system, if we can't get the basics of teaching somebody how to read, right, then of course, when atrocities and things like this happen, where it's like, well, that boy knew what he wanted. That boy, that ain't no boy. That's a grown man. That man will kill you. The same way that a boy was a murderer got off the hook because the boy's fists became weapons. That was a thing that actually happened. You know what I'm saying? So when we talk about not George Floyd, but Zimmerman, right? So listen, man, I think that we know where this thing comes from, but how do we raise that alarm? Like, how do we change that? And with less than 5% of all teachers being black, less than 2.5% of those being black men, if we're not there and we're not in those places of power, then how do we do it? And that's why I believe in some alternative school options. That's why I believe in that we got to start our own stuff, and you got to be in control of your own community, because they don't protect their own kids. What make you think they're going to protect ours?
You know what no one can talk about in this issue? You want a real hot take that no one can talk about?
Come on.
You about to go to parents?
65% of black children are raised by a single black mom. When you think about where boys come from and where men come from, boys are given a lot of messages from day one that tells them that they're less than. And no one ever talks about it. They suffer in silence as they're growing up, from age 2 to 6, 6 to 10, 10 to 15, 15 to 20, is a steady stream of messages. And then when they get sick of the messages, they're full of all this, they're the sum total of everything that they've ever heard about themselves in their homes, their communities, and everywhere else. And they act out or do something that people don't like. Then you blame them. You act like they're aliens, like they came out super predators. Oh my God, they're super predators. Well, where does super predators come from? God damn it. You don't come out the womb a goddamn super predator. You are in the care of people all the way up until you're like, that 18 and you got to get out this house. And I do think we treat boys differently. And I do think that boys get different messages. And I think it's easy to say the shit that we normally say about teachers and all that, because I'm going to say that. But the thing we can't ever say is that shit starts at home. And no one's going to talk about it because you know why, right? Black men come from somewhere. Black boys come from somewhere. And if you're not going to talk about it, then what are we talking about even? You think at 18, they just all of a sudden just pop out, being who they are, the persons that you don't like? Charles, you and I have talked about this, and Torrin, I don't know if you saw this, but years ago, there was this black boy that was out protesting. His mom found him out in the street and whooped his ass. And
that was in Baltimore. I saw that. Yeah.
And everybody was like just cheering. Oh my God, look at her. She's such a good mom. She's tough. She ended up getting on the View. She ended up showing up on the View and like on to the Today Show because of that. Yeah, I remember that. That was actually during the Freddie Gray riots, the Freddie Gray uprising. He was out there protesting, and yeah, she came out there and slapped him upside the head, was hitting him like he was a. First of all, we can get into corporal punishment, but yeah, she slapped him, and pushed him back into the house, and they tried to act like the way that story. And this goes back to what I was saying about media narratives. The way that story was framed in the press, in the mainstream press, was that like they tried to portray him like he was out there slinging rocks or like they're about to join a gang or something like that. She came and rescued him from that. He was out there protesting against a disabled black man who was killed by the police in Baltimore. But that didn't become part of the story. The story became about this is a mother. This is how you're supposed to discipline your black boys. And it goes back to almost damn near slavery, where it's like it does.
Some of the people who are older who are listening probably know, like, some people had got their grandmamas or because usually it was the mothers who did the discipline on that level. It was like, I'm gonna whip you before the white man whip you, or I'm gonna beat you before the police beat you. And I've heard stories of kids doing like misdemeanor stuff, or doing stuff like stealing candy out of a store, and the police pick them up and take them back home, and they whip them in front of the police, so the police won't do nothing to them. What does that teach your children if you're raising them up like that? That goes right back to slavery. They had the biggest buck to whip and let him whip you, so the overseer won't do it. And a lot of us have been handed that stuff down, and a lot of white people, whether they're conservative or liberal or progressive, and a lot of black people definitely, which is the point of what I was trying to make by talking about the story. There are a lot of black people who believe in that as well, and they are more dangerous than white people who handle this stuff down, because these are people who black kids automatically look to be guidance, to be mentors. And if your mentor, the people who are supposed to give you guidance, think about this. This is a therapist and a psychologist who was allegedly sexually abusing these young boys. So if somebody who's supposed to give you comfort in the midst of a hellhole, like a juvenile detention center, and she sees you as a sexual object, what hope do you have when you go out into the world and try to relate to people? That's why I talked about it.
You'll never trust again. You'll never trust again. That's into your trusting the world. Someone in an authority position doing that to you when you're young and vulnerable. After that, you know the world is cooked.
I mean, I've been pulled over, over 12, 13 times. Only got a few tickets in my life. I mean, I've gone through that. I mean, but I wrote about this. In my book. I call it BAT, right? There's Black Achievement Trauma Tax. Like, there's a tax that happens, and there's one that happens on boys with this stuff. I will say this. I do think this is a nuanced piece, though. I think, listen, I get it, and we argued about this at A Black Hands before, Chris. There has been a time when the threat of an ass whooping has saved me in a lot of ways. My father was there. We didn't get along all the time. We don't always get along now, but I know his presence, and there were just certain things that I was not gonna do that my friends were definitely out doing, and I would absolutely have been out doing. Like, I would have definitely had girls spending the night or staying out all night or doing a whole bunch of stuff if it was just my mama. Like, even with what his mama did, he respected her, but you kind of shrug your moms off in a different way. I will say this. I think that woman in the moment was probably trying to do the best she could with what she had. I'm not necessarily shooting anybody any bail. I do just think that there's some nuance there. I think when you got better tools, you use them. But I can't be ethnocentric right now and judge my parents or their parents of how they were raised, like based off of the resources and things that we got at our disposal now. And again, an ass whooping saved me in a lot of different ways, right? Like, I don't know if the ass whooping is the reason that I'm a doctor, but I definitely know it's the reason why I ain't never seen the inside of a jail cell. But
I just want to clean up my point.
You got different tools now. I think I don't hold myself to the same standard I would hold my father or my father's father to that. And I don't know if that woman, right? I don't know what tool she had. I don't know where she was in those things. I saw it. I remember seeing it. And you're not lying, Torrin. And Chris, you brought this up at the time too. I did think he was doing some other shit. I thought that the way that it looked like she caught him with rocks in his hand. And to which, if she did, I'm like, drag his ass in the house, because if you don't drag him, these police will drag him. And I know that some people might say that's propaganda, but where I come from, it's not. I've seen people get fucked up by the police. I've been roughed up by the police myself when I haven't done anything wrong, right? So, you know, I get it. I don't disagree with what y'all were saying. I did just want to offer a different perspective on it.
I want to clean up my point just a little bit, though, because this is the reason I said we can't talk about it. Because I'm not talking about the woman or the moms or whatever. So no one needs to come and rescue them from this conversation.
Right.
My main point is, in that moment, I empathized with the boy.
Right.
100%. He's on national goddamn TV catching an ass whooping for doing something that I don't even think was all that bad, to be very honest with you, whatnot. And the point that I'm making is, that's something I think is rare. When you empathize with the boy, you're doing something rare. You empathize with everybody else around him, but not him. And what does that tell him?
And that goes back to my point that I was saying. Oh, go ahead, Chris. Go ahead, Charles. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, but I do empathize with the boy. I think my empathy with the boy is, I've had my mom be upset and push up on me, and I'm just saying it hurt emotionally, right? I'm not gonna hit my mom, but it didn't hurt as physically. Like, I watched that. Like, I think, you know what I'm saying. Listen, man. I get what you're saying, Chris. And it ain't for us to say if that was okay for him to do or not. I don't know what their conversations were. I don't know what that was, but I get what you're saying, though. So I think, Torin, you were about to make a good point about, y'all were connecting on the point about nobody empathizing with the boy, and I don't want to step on that point. So it's more.
No. I want to tie this into what we were talking about, the subject at hand anyway, because this is something that people talk about. The abuse of Black boys and the violation of Black boys is seen as either a rite of passage for Black boys, or it's seen as something that Black boys are here to endure. And looking at this way the situation fall out in that detention center, it seems like something that can be codified into the point where, like, this is sort of like something that they're just supposed to suck up and just be happy with. And this is what scares me about this. What I'm afraid of is there is already, look, we know since the minute we got dragged to this country, Black men have been dehumanized, brutalized, and then seen as less than human beings. The issue with this is, when you have that sort of mentality codified into academia, when you see it codified into therapy, when you see it codified into all these systems that are supposed to be set up to be able to help Black boys in crisis, and the people they deal with have the same mentality that Black boys need to be pathologized, need to be demonized, and the only way they can deal with them is either through medication or incarceration. Or their fears and their concerns need to be overlooked. And if you think I'm lying, all you got to do is look at the people who are on social media with their government names, with all these letters behind their names, who are licensed clinical social workers, who get on here and say crazy ass off the wall shit about young Black boys. You can't say that about any other ethnic group and expect to keep your license and not be censored. Go online and say something sideways about Jewish kids and see how long your office stays up. Go on there and say something about white women or white men who are going through suicidal ideation and crisis. See how long you work. See how long you have a practice. They will be outside your practice 6 o'clock in the morning before you pull up. But we're Black boys are the only people who seems like we can be demonized, talked about, laughed at, abused, and everyone's supposed to just suck it up. And it's even more damaging, like I said, when you have somebody who looks like you, who's perpetuating this white supremacist narrative, white supremacist theory, and telling you that you're weak for talking about it.
Yeah. Chris, I know you have some strong points, so let me get this out the way, because I think you and Torin were doing a really good job on this. You know, the empathy for the boy. I mean, I wrote a book on it, right? Like I followed 3 boys that grew up like I did. And here's what the tax that they pay. And these are the 3 boys that ended up being doctors. These are the ones that ended up being successful. It's called the Black Achievement Trauma Tax. And it talks about that emotional psychological cost that comes with being a high achieving Black male, right? Or a Black boy. Number 1, latent emotional insecurity, right? The things y'all are talking about. You have no emotional center at times, right? Like, because you don't know, like, you've gotten all these weird mixed messages, like you just said, who do I turn to? Who do I talk to? Who can I trust, right? Normally it's nobody, and you try to turn inward and it eats you alive. Inability to build and sustain deep relationships, another cause of this, right? Like, if my mama do this to me, if my dad do this to me, if my favorite teacher, if this cop that's supposed to protect me, if they people do this to me, then what you gonna do? What you gonna do to me? And you gotta wear that. The other was internalized hypervigilance, a consistent need to just prove yourself, and it leads to chronic stress. You're never good enough. how you do it is never right, right? You might see this with me. I'm a workaholic, right? Like, I think I've been successful, but in the crevices of my mind, damn, it can be better. It has to be better because I'm a black male, and anything less will not save me. And then finally, survivor's guilt, right? Like, there's a huge just swath and chunk of like survivor's guilt that goes into that. I feel terrible. Like, I'm here and my best friends are not. Like, if you do go read that book that I wrote, the 3 names I used were real people in my life that are dead, and one of them is in jail for the rest of his life, right? Like, and the other 3 were really successful. And then finally, I had one more, I'm sorry. Suppressed healing and unacknowledged pain. You get so used to that pain and it being there that it turns into something else. You don't even feel it anymore. They like, oh, does this hurt? And you're like, what are you doing? I don't even know. It's just there, and it becomes a part of you. And when you don't solve that stuff, trauma doesn't just go away. It may go dormant, and it will reemerge, and it will reemerge at the worst times possible. So everything that we're talking about, if you want that, go read Beyond Grit and Resilience. You will get that empathy from reading those 3 stories where all of this comes into play. There's a situation with one of those stories where the boy got his ass beat, and he came in a house. We had a single mom in East Oakland, and she said, "You're gonna take your ass back out there, and either he gonna beat your ass or I'm gonna beat your ass. Go pick one." Right? And again, I don't blame her for that because I know the circumstance that he's in. I know that if you just let somebody punk you in East Oakland, that becomes your rep, and it becomes even more dangerous for you. Like, people, sometimes it's better to take an ass whooping than to do nothing. Those are the morals that I was born with, and then now trying to relearn and re-educate. That's just not easy. And especially in a climate where everybody seems to be getting love. But when Torrin does a thing about black boys, they say, well, that black male studies thing is bullshit and misogynistic, and it should not exist. Female studies can exist, but black male studies, heresy. Yeah. You fucking heretic. Or when Chris says, hey man, there's a lot of black dads that go above and beyond. Actually, the stats say they're the most involved. We're the most involved. Well, nigga, didn't nobody ask you that. We ain't talking about that right now. You know what I'm saying? Go cape for them. And we've all dealt with it, but we are men. And there is something that we were taught too, that somewhere down the line, we have to suppress and push that shit because part of our role as men is to do that. And I think that those things do need to be, they need to be redefined and relooked at, but not from the lens of the people that's doing it. I don't think that means you need to make men more feminine. And I think that that's where a lot of that help comes disguised as, and I think that that's dangerous.
I think you opened up another can of worms, though. Because you just opened up
another topic, but go ahead.
No, it's not another topic.
We can stay here. I can do mine later. It's all good.
Well, let me just land it this way.
No, let's do it because I think it's gonna be something good.
The lack of empathy that people have for the black male continues on. It never stops. So you just opened up something there, like the fathers, black fathers. Nobody talks about black fathers as a positive part of our identity. Right. No one asks you about your black fathering. Or how you got your philosophy of fatherhood, whatever. They don't talk about black men as being fathers. As a matter of fact, they talk about us as not being fathers as part of our character and our identity. So when you walk into a court on something that has to do with paternity or whatnot, I'm not saying this. The research says this. There's a different way that court treats you, right? It's a continuation of the black male. In every room he goes in, he is going to be getting a message that you're not the same as everybody else. You're not as good as others people are. And I've told you this a lot of times. My network is full of black fathers waking up every day doing what they're supposed to do. My Facebook is full of black men like buying their babies' prom dresses and their first cars and taking it. It's normal in my life. I don't know what's wrong with other people's algorithm, but it's normal for black fathers in my algorithm, right? But we're not seen that way. We're not seen that way. And I use the court as an example because that's one of the clearest ways that, when it comes down to a judge telling you what's your value in your child's life, that judge tells you, listen, we're going to garnish your check. I just don't ask you anything else except for like how much we're going to garnish you. Right.
Here's the thing about that. I'm sorry. I didn't.
No, go ahead.
Here's the other thing that's scary about that. I think what happens a lot of the times, and this goes back again, because I'm gonna stay on this media narrative. If you don't know what's out there and you don't have the information, you're gonna go with what you either assume or the stereotypes you've already been infused with. Infused, that's not a word for this, but anyway. But the thing of it is, that's something that happens with younger people. That's something that happens with older people. You'd be surprised how many people they'll pull statistics out about black fatherhood and the fact that black fathers tend to be the most involved fathers, whether they're in the household or not. And I have people who have PhDs tell me they've never heard that. Why? How come they haven't heard that?
Really?
No, I'm saying, how can I hear it? I work in media. I do research for a living, but how come I know this and you don't? But you're in the academy, and and not only that, you're a therapist, and you're trying to help people, and you're supposed to be helping people. There is back to your earlier point that we were talking about earlier. I believe there is a suppression, and there is an agenda at play to make black men, black fathers look like the lowest common denominator and look like the worst option for somebody who's trying to raise a child. And a lot of our people, and I'm gonna be real with a lot of black women have internalized that. Which is why I say you have to ask some very, very hard questions if you're going to try to build a family with somebody. You need to ask about her worldview. You need to figure out what your worldview is. You got to have some conversations about child rearing. You got to have some understanding about who her family is and yours as well. It has to be mutual down the board. And a lot of people out here who are doing this and they're trying to procreate with people, they're sitting on minefields that they don't even realize they're dealing with, because they're dealing with somebody who doesn't have any respect for black men, who hasn't grown up in an environment where they've seen black men doing the things you're talking about, Chris, and they fall into these patterns that they've seen maybe family members fall into, or they've seen this whole thing where it becomes like child support becomes almost like a never-ending cycle in your family. But this is how you deal with men, just on child support. What can he give me? That's dangerous for a male psyche. That's dangerous for a woman's psyche, and it's devastating and catastrophic for a child being raised up in that atmosphere.
I think that's absolutely right, and I don't know how we reverse it. But I do know calling it out, because again, Charles, I'm glad you wrote the book that you wrote. I'm glad you did the research that you researched. I think more people need to do it. I just noticed that Mama Toya put into the comments this thing about Dr. Curry, the book Man Out. I read that book and I felt seen for one of the first times in many books that I've read in my life, because it was scholarly, but it was detailing the things that no one can argue about. And it was like one of the only ones. I don't know why. You know what? It's so bad that Dr. Curry had to leave the country. Dr. Curry is teaching at Oxford somewhere now, right? But I'm only bringing this
and
up.
Get shit every day on this app. Every day he gets shit.
And I'm encouraging people to get the book to know more of what I'm talking about. Please just read that book, because I can't explain it. I can't explain it, but I do know that every message, every step of your life, every step of your way, you're given messages to tell you where you are on the totem pole of people, and you're at the bottom. As a black male, you're at the bottom. Anyways, I know you wanted to transition to the next.
No, we can stay here. I will say, can I just say though, we're currently over 720 people live. Thank you so much, Chris. I just dropped our Twitter stuff down there. I know you're rarely on there, but you dropped
the wrong one for me, bro.
You got it, but brother, this is the next one, brother. You can do it. You can do that. Hit the comments so they can go follow. Please share this with people and keep commenting. We'll get those comments up. It's you should see my comment in there around 7:56. And as we transition, man, thank you all for just commenting and being a part of this conversation, and just seeing three brothers who's smart, who got love for each other, but don't agree on everything. And look at us having a civilized conversation while pushing each other intellectually. I would say, so this last one is, I don't think it's as heavy, but I do think it's important. So everybody's been watching Stephen A. Smith and LeBron James kind of go at it. And here's the origins of the feud, just for those that might not know. Because Chris, I think you said you weren't super up on this, right?
Right. Yeah.
All right. So here's the initial confrontation. The discord with LeBron James confronted ESPN. So basically, LeBron James's son, Bronny James, had an interesting career. He had a heart thing. He almost died in college. Wasn't the greatest college player, but basically he entered the draft. His dad moved some things around, made sure he got drafted by the LA Lakers, where he is. The first night, everybody came out. The Griffeys, they're the first father-son duo in baseball to play together. It was history, right? But then after that, when the Lakers kept putting him on the G League team, and bringing him back up, and people were just saying he wasn't ready. Well, one of those critics was Stephen A. Smith. And Stephen A. Smith, doing his job, was talking about, well, he's just not there yet. He might get there, but he's not there. But he had this moment where he said, talking to you as a father, LeBron, stop doing this to your son. Basically, nobody could kind of comment on those things. LeBron didn't like it, saw him at a game. In the third quarter, LeBron James walked up to him, said, quit shitting on my son, kind of buffed him up a little bit, went back to the game. And now there's been a lot more fallout. Stephen A. has responded. And then the last thing that happened is LeBron James went on the Pat McAfee show. Now, if you don't know ESPN stuff, Pat McAfee is an independent person like what we're doing. He's huge. He was big on his own, and he partners with ESPN. That's very essential because he does not have to answer to ESPN bosses the same. So LeBron James went on the show directly after Stephen A. Smith's, kind of shit on Stephen A. Smith a little bit, and this back and forth has just been going, and it's been pretty unbecoming of both of them. But I just want to know what people's thoughts were because I had a pretty different take. The way that I'm looking at this is there's been takes. Is LeBron wrong for how he did it? Stephen A's doing his job. Is Stephen A. wrong because he made it personal and a father would check anybody for saying something about their kid, but your kid is now an NBA player? I'm not looking at it like that. I'm looking at it like this. These are two kings of their respective industry. LeBron James is at the top of the NBA heap. I think he's the second greatest of all time, third greatest, second. I don't really think he's better than Kobe. He's damn sure not better than Michael to me, but that's me. But I'm not mad if you make that argument. Look, and Stephen A. Smith is the biggest thing in sports media has ever seen. He just signed a $100 million contract. Like, he is out there. So my question was this. I have not seen any takes of these two kings of industry that happen to be black men and how they're beefing with each other. I just want to know what y'all's thoughts were. Like, how do you think that should be? Should that beef continue to play out in person? Does it help us all if they take that behind closed doors? Or do they just keep working their own respective media empires and just keep shooting at each other? But does that hurt us collectively as a people?
Let me take this one because I can speak on this from a media standpoint.
Yeah.
I feel two ways about this. First of all, here's the thing. If LeBron is really upset, and I really believe he is, because most fathers would be upset if they hear their son being talked about greasy in public. Stephen A. Smith and LeBron James are in the same circles.
Mm-hmm.
That could have been a phone call, and that could have been a conversation where it's like, if I got problems with you, we can go somewhere else and handle this and do it that way. I'm not talking about getting physical. I'm just saying, let's have a conversation so we can get some understanding about this. I understand that part of it. I also understand the passion of somebody who is aggressive and driven, and in the heat of the moment, you go over to somebody and you have an issue with because you see them right there, like making it on sight. I get that part of it too. The other part of it is this. For all we know, all this stuff really feeds the machine. What I mean by that is doing this stuff publicly, making this a story. It's been like 2.5 weeks now, right? Going on 3 weeks.
It's going and it's getting bigger.
This is a story that's been going in the media for like going on 3 weeks, damn near the better part of a month now. That is the perfect storm if you are a sports journalist or you're a celebrity journalist to get two people going at each other and have them feeding off each other. That sells newspapers, that gets clicks, that gets people paying attention to what you got going on and stuff like that. So I understand it. So my feeling about it, part of me wonders if this real emotion is coming out, or is it some level of kayfabe where you got two people who understand how to work the media and they know this is good for both of their brains, and they're just amping this up until it goes somewhere they may not be able to come back from. That's my fear. My concern is I hope it doesn't get amped up by outside sources or people on the outside of this situation to the point where something jumps off and somebody gets hurt or a fight breaks out about that. I don't see LeBron and Steven fighting each other, but I feel what people on the periphery of this get. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But I can see people amping up on the outside of it, trying to make a name for themselves on outside of their circles, trying to make something happen. That's the way I feel about it.
Okay. And if you got any other questions about it, Chris, I can answer as much as I can, but based off what you heard so far.
No, I don't have any more questions. I mean, like, I was looking at the headlines. Most of the headlines are basically just saying, well, nobody's favorable towards LeBron, it looks like. And then several of the headlines are
the players are. So basically, that's the other thing. And players have started to ice out Stephen A. So like there's this large group of players, like they won't do interviews with him. They've kind of like the players are kind of in solidarity against him. Like if you watch like a Gil's Arena or some of these player-led podcasts, they're kind of on Stephen A. Like it's really a war. It's really a lot happening.
I was just meaning the headlines.
Got you.
Like the way that the news is covering it. Most of it is nobody looks good in this situation. Headlines like that, or they're going after LeBron a little bit more. It feels like, just to me. And I think part of that is I don't put them on the same level. I don't. LeBron's different than Stephen A is. I think they have different. They're playing their games at different levels, and I think that LeBron has more to lose than Stephen A does. And I think Stephen A, I don't see LeBron getting into a lot of this. I see Stephen A getting into a lot of this over time. I don't know if it's because it's part of his thing, part of his shtick, but couple weeks ago was him and Serena Williams. You know, that little thing that a 50-something-year-old man was talking about, she would never be good for him or something. I don't know. I don't know. It's like
I think you're mixing
Really?
up Whitlock and
That sounds like Whitlock.
that's Whitlock.
Jason Whitlock.
That's a different.
Yeah.
That's a whole
No,
different.
I don't think it was. But anyways, I will look it up as we're talking. But it seems like Stephen A is in a lot of things. But his game is different, right? He's a commentator. He's you know, he's a talking head. He's not a
He is the
basketball person.
commentator.
So
Yeah, and I think that's part of. I think that ties into what you're saying. You know, when you're somebody like that, it's basically you being like a TMZ or a tabloid journalist. And the thing of it is, when you had that sort of, when that's your brand and that's what your field is, it's your job to keep stuff going, to keep the rumor mill going, and keep the news cycle going, talking about you and your beat. So this is perfect. If you already have a bully pulpit, and then you kind of get into it with one of the biggest names in sports, and that's your field, of course you want to kind of keep doing stuff to keep that going and everything. It's like a hip hop beef in a way.
I just want to say for the record too, I was right. It was Stephen A. Smith.
Well,
Really?
I mean,
It was Stephen A. Smith. So Stephen A. Smith said that that if his wife danced at the halftime show like Serena Williams did, he'd divorce her. And then her husband responded, "I get it. You're 57 and life didn't turn out the way you imagined. That kind of disappointment must be exhausting."
Are you sure that's Stephen A. Smith? Put it up on the screen.
Bruh,
I just remember Whitlock.
look
said-
No, that was Whitlock.
Because Whitlock said
I got
that's
to
what Whitlock said and came for it. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like I remember when he did it.
I'm looking at it right now.
No, I'm saying that's it. Just put. I wanted to. That's what I said. I was just putting on the
Looking at
screen.
it right now.
But here's what I was saying. As somebody, like I said, who watches this
Because I got the story from the New York Post that's saying that she was.
and loves sports, because I know her husband clapped back at Whitlock. But
I'm looking at that right now.
I would say this one thing that Stephen A does tend to get props for, and this is why it was, did he go at his son in a personal way or as stuff on the court? Stephen A. Smith was talking like he's not an NBA player yet. And this was before he had the 19 points or whatever the case was. You know what I'm saying? But like he had not been playing well up until that point. And what he was saying was that, yo, you have so much control over the media that none of us is going to tell the truth about this situation. Like, I need you to stop doing this. I think that Stephen A is usually really good at not going personal, but he did kind of lose himself in some of this. Yeah, let's see. Yeah, I'm telling you, who is the poster? I really think that, I think this person might have got it wrong, because I can look up, I'll find the one with Whitlock. Whitlock said
I'm looking at the New York Post story right now, and that was Whitlock. I'm looking right at the New York Post story now, and it was Whitlock going there with Alex O'Haney.
It was absolutely Jason Whitlock.
I think y'all brothers is just missing.
No, but that's Jason Whitlock's brand, right? Jason Whitlock's brand is anything that's black, anything that's like pro-black or looks a certain type of way or whatever the case is. You know what I'm saying? And maybe, like, I don't know if he was talking back to him or whatever, but I remember it being bigger with Whitlock. It is what it is. That's not the point, though. The point.
This is recent, and I just want to make the point. I'm right.
Hey man,
it was him. It was him, and this wasn't
check
that
the chat.
Check
the chat. I just put it. Check the chat. I just put it in there. That
all right.
It says that that was Jason Whitlock and Alex O'Haney going at it.
Well, then that must mean that he did it more than once.
That
means that's only proving my point too, is because if he did it before in another situation, in this situation, he apologized for it. He apologized after the founder of Reddit called him out for being 57 and single.
Yeah, Alex O'Haney, and if I got his name right, yeah.
But I mean, what's called is not 57 and single either, but I got you. But the point that I'm making is this, right? Like I'm just telling you the facts. I don't want it's just factually not correct. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, I've been watching this thing, but again,
I'm just saying that's what Mr. Reddit said.
So here's the thing that with that though, right? Like you said, they playing a different game. I mean, yeah, one just signed a brand new contract and the other was about to retire at some point in the next few years, if not this year, right? I think he's going to try to stay for his other son. Like, I think it's very difficult when you are a sports figure and you go at a journalist, right? Especially a journalist with that type of microphone. And I'm talking to two other people that I consider journalists, right? Torrin and Chris. Like, y'all are people, and people can say to you whatever they're going to do, try to run up on you, say whatever. But I know how both of y'all are. If there's a microphone, you're going to keep saying what you're saying if it's part of your job or whatever the case is. I was taking it back, though. I think it looks bad on both of them. I think they both look kind of prima donna-ish in the whole thing. I think they're both really powerful people. I just don't know if anybody stepped back and been like, damn, these two black men are titans. They are record breakers in both of their respective fields. And I just wish that could have been met with some type of celebration. I just don't like that these type of accolades for us is just surrounded in controversy.
I don't believe you, Charles. I don't believe you.
What don't you believe?
No, I don't believe you.
What don't you believe?
I don't believe that you're a fan of hip hop and you're saying what you're saying right now. And you're saying what you're saying right now, right? Like, I mean, you love 50 Cent when he does this sort of thing, right? I mean, when he buys out all of the seats of Juveniles, is it Juvenile?
No, it wasn't.
Not Ja Rule.
It was Ja Rule. Ja Rule.
Yeah,
Bro.
Yeah. Talking about hip hop.
Was that? Oh, sorry. What'd you say?
That was Ja.
You should not be talking hip hop.
I should. I'm the oldest one here. I got the longest memory. Now, I will say this much. Bruh, I just said a guy, right? Like, but did he buy seats out? Was he hella petty?
Yeah, he always
did people love it?
One of them tried to kill him.
Did people love it?
He stabbed him. Yeah.
Did people love it?
His boss had him shot 9 times. Yeah, we're not going to be friends ever. What are we talking about? This is not the same.
People loved it, right? He goes after Diddy.
No, this is not the same.
He goes after. Well, listen. You love the Nas Jay-Z thing. Nobody tried to kill nobody in that situation.
Some stuff.
I don't know if this is the same thing though, because what we're talking about a beef between people who are in the rap game, and sometimes it can get bloody like that. But what we're talking about is somebody who's coming from the avenue of being a journalist, and that's again, this is something I can speak to. But I do have to say this because I've said this before. There is very much an entertainment aspect that goes into sports journalism that doesn't go into other parts of journalism. It's almost like you remember when wrestling used to be on TV back in the day. What was the little bald-headed guy, Gene Okerlund, and what's his name? Mean Gene Okerlund, who used to be the announcer for wrestling back in the day before it really blew up. Yeah, that's what sports journalism is. It's almost like you got to be kayfabe and you got to kind of feed into these personas and everything. And it's like you got to give some journalism, but a lot of it's about talking about the same way we're talking about now. A lot of sports journalism is people talking about their favorite player and talking about their stats and that sort of stuff, which is facts. But there's a lot of performance gets into this because y'all know how Steven gets into stuff. Steven start off low and start turning into a Baptist preacher, yelling and hollering and all like that. Same thing with Skip and Shannon had their show. It was like 2 old men at the old folks home talking about about Muhammad Ali and stuff like that. There's always been an element of performance in sports journalism, even going all the way back to Muhammad Ali and what's his name? Yeah, that was a double act. You can say what you want, but that was a 2-man comedy act that was going on with them when they performed and stuff like that. And there's a lot of that in just sports journalism. So I think you have to look at it with a different lens. You can't to make sports because look, sports in itself is about getting the crowd into what you're doing, creating heroes and villains, and making people be on the side of the underdog and be on the side of the villain, that sort of stuff. I think Stephen A. is playing into that. But I think what's happening now is somebody like a LeBron should understand it, and I think he does. But I feel like what's happening now is people are getting into it, and they're getting caught up in when we're talking about brand loyalty and we're talking about performer loyalty. And I think that's where it's getting twisted. Sometimes you can be in the midst of that and be a powerful king, as you say, Charles, and still get your head twisted up. And I think
absolutely. And Chris, can you put up El Michelle's last comment? Because what she says, Smith is not better than Wilbon. So Wilbon, from Chicago, famous. He's like Hall of Fame person. He's Stephen A. Smith's mentor. Like they're like it's his mentor. So, and he just got on both of them, right? He got on Stephen A. Smith today and LeBron, right? And I like what Charles Barkley said. I tried to put in the notes that I sent over to you, but Charles Barkley was like, these are both actually 2 really cool guys. They're really good guys, right? But like they're so big. This is the thing. They're so big and they're so powerful that neither one of them is giving up any type of ground, right? LeBron is still trolling. LeBron has his other people like Draymond and these cats. And I love Draymond Green. And Draymond Green was mentored by Stephen A. Smith. Will not talk to Stephen A. Smith because he felt that he got personal, that he shouldn't have mentioned Bronny. I guess what I'm saying, I'm just looking more for now, extrapolate from them. I'm just saying, like, when 2 black powerful men are beefing, how should that beef go? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, because when 2 kings fight, the villages are the ones that get trampled on. Like, both of them are going to be fine later on, but there are going to be people that catch strays. There are going to be people that won't get interviews. LeBron James shit on a lot of reporters that day. One of them being Brian Windhorst, who has like followed him since he was in junior high school, right? And kind of, looked out for him his entire career. I'm just saying, how do we learn how to deal with trauma? We learn how to struggle. We learn how to hustle. But when are we going to start learning how to be successful? I will turn this inward. I don't know how to be successful. It's not something that I was around. I was around people that was making 5 cents stretched to 15. Like I'm learning that stuff, and there are missteps, and I see ego stepping in where experience has never lived. So I'm trying to glean from you two something for our viewers to chew on around how do we go about now stepping into this world of being successful when that's not the reality that we've had for most of our lives.
So I feel like you are talking. The reason we're talking about them is because they're successful. And I think successful people get to say whatever they want sometimes. But I do think that there's an asymmetrical relationship in this situation. Sometimes when you are the clean ball player who has got brand deals and has obligations and has a family that you have to, keep going the way that you're going or whatever, and you got a school and you got all these different things, you're constantly getting criticism. And you constantly you're not biting on it. You're constantly like letting it go. Now you're gonna tell me there's not gonna come a point at which you want to throttle somebody when you see them?
Absolutely.
After being like for years and years and years. I mean, and listen, Steven's a different situation. Sports writers, period, will ride your ass. People who've never been on a goddamn court in their life will be sitting there writing things about you constantly. And when you see them, all you have to be able to do is just kind of walk by them type of thing, right? Right. Every city has a sports writer that's all they do. And eventually, I watched it with Randy Moss years ago here. They actually looked like they were trying to go further than what they normally do. They were trying to get him fired. And he's supposed to not just freak out at some point. He's just not supposed to say something. Well, when I think about these two, Stephen A. Smith is he's a commentator, so he gets to say what he wants to say, when he wants to say it, how he wants to say it.
If he keeps his sports, he comments on the court.
Well, I mean, he even said he got into some other stuff not too long ago where he was saying that Biden should pardon Trump. And when he said that, I mean, he got into some, people, he got some backlash, but I guess when you're in his situation, sometimes backlash is actually good for you.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah. There's no such thing as bad press.
Yeah. Like that. So,
the view counter don't know if you hate watching or love watching. It just knows I'm over 2 million fans right now.
Exactly.
So he can do things that LeBron can do because LeBron doesn't commentate on Stephen A's performance.
He does. No, he does. That was the whole thing.
I mean, for a living. I mean, that's not his job. His job isn't to like every day find stuff to pick at. Like when you're a commentator, that's what you do. That's your job, right? You're like an insult comic, damn near, right?
Yeah, you have a bully pulpit five times a week that you can get on there and do that. You know what I mean?
Millions of people
on Disney and on your own because he did
millions
his own independent media.
Now, I think if like looking at Shannon Sharpe, if he's any indication, I think if LeBron had a podcast, he would have a platform too. He'd have millions of people and he could have his say, but he can't do that until he retires.
Remember when he had he's got the barbershop thing that he does. I don't know if
he has a media empire. Jamel Hill's show is through his company. He has the shop.
He gets to just say what he wants to say about like this stuff, right? Like,
he does on the shop.
He talks about this.
He went on Pat McAfee show and talked about it, but he could have talked about it on his. Like he has a media company. Like, so here's the thing. LeBron is going to retire and then he's going to be the biggest thing in media too. Like that's the other thing, right? LeBron has set this up. Like what I was trying to do, what I'm failing at, but I wouldn't just say it because I'm not doing the nuance well. I respect both of these people a ton. Regardless if you like LeBron or you like Stephen A. Smith, what they have been able to create, what LeBron James has done from a single parent home, never been in trouble ever, has a beautiful family, has broken almost every single record that exists, has done a ton for Akron, built schools, done all these type of things. And he is like, yo, I do deserve a little bit of special treatment because after everything I've given this league, if I want to drag my son through hell and back, you're going to pay me to do it. And I'm going to do it, right? Same with Stephen A. Stephen A. Smith went from being fired and ostracized from ESPN, learning those lessons, retooling, and coming back, taking over a show, being #1 for over 10 years and counting, and then started a brand new thing because he wanted to talk politics. You can't talk politics on Disney. You can't do it. It's a thing. They've talked about it, but built that up to over 1.5 million people and are trying to engage these people. What I'm saying is these should be 2 case studies of the highest levels of success in American like entertainment. And what we're not talking about the greatness of these people. We're talking about a dumbass beef that's going to blow over at some point. It's a part of history now, but at some point, I mean, those guys are going to be okay. But I'm not talking about Jeff Bezos and fucking Steve Jobs with a beef. I'm looking at them as like this. They done some incredible stuff, and I don't know how to talk about it where we actually are studying these guys and what they did to become this type of successful.
I got to say this because this is
No,
something
he's not at his father's level, and he never will be. Not at all.
this is something that people say a lot because, again, there's two things at play though. Because I try to look at the totality of how things play out. I gotta take issue with what you said, Charles, about that because trust me, white people like Steve Jobs, who's not here obviously, but people who are in on that level, they be going to absolute all-out war with each other. People who were like I mean, hell, we saw what happened with Steve Jobs and Bill Gates. They were at war with each other for years. But here's the thing: they do it in boardrooms, and they do it. And when you go into the store, I mean, you see who's out there for you to sell. They're not going to fight each other at a bar somewhere.
Right.
The sad thing with a lot of our people sometimes, and some of our people who are achieved and everything and been able to be successful, sometimes with us, sometimes we'll go on site, even whether we got $1 billion or $100 million. There's a possibility we might end up squaring off with each other.
Right.
They don't do it. They fight with lawyers. We fight with fists. The other part of it is this, unfortunately, and this is something that may break some of y'all hearts, some of the people listening. Some of these stories carry as far as they go, beef stories, is because we want to see beef stories collectively. We like this as much as look. I hate Zeus and baddies with a passion, but there's 200 million people who tune into it every time it goes live. Why? Because they want to see it. Do I wish things were different? I absolutely wish they were different. However, they are not. And if I wanted to make money right now, I could get if I wanted to make a show right now called a fight show, I just get a camera and get a room. We have dudes just wilding out, and whoever the best man win, I'll probably have 100,000 viewers by the end of the week, man, because that's what people like. I understand it's funny, but it's not. It's almost like you got to laugh to keep from crying.
Right.
But unfortunately, that's what the audience loves. Now that doesn't mean that everybody likes that, because I hate that stuff, and there's a lot of people who do. But I'm saying these people are very media savvy. These people have media empires. LeBron has a media company. LeBron has a media company that underwrites a lot of films too that people don't know about and stuff. You know what I mean? Watch some of the opening credits of some of these movies. You'll see what comes up. I'm saying that these people know what sells and they know what people want. So that might factor into it as well. Even if they don't particularly like it, it's almost like if you have a butcher shop. There's a lot of vegetarians that have butcher shops because they know the butcher shop is going to get their kids through college. You know what I mean? It's like we got to look at all these things. You know what I mean? They may not even have a beef that is deep as they have with each other, like you said. They might get on the phone and call each other probably every other night. And be, hey, man, I'm gonna talk about you tonight. Man, I'm gonna say something about you next week. Who knows? You know what I mean? That's how this game gets played. But like you said, if you're not privy to that, then you think it's all out war. So it's just wild, man. Who knows?
So I will say this much: Elon Musk did say to Zuckerberg, we could do a cage match.
Yeah,
and Zuckerberg was like, and Zuckerberg was like, yeah, that was me 5 years ago. Since then, I've been taking BJJ, right? Like I've been taking jujitsu. So you come and do that, Mr. Musk. Let's do that, right? So even at their level, they're kind of like, listen, we could be about that life, right? At their level, they're titans, right? In a cage match. Now, it never happened because Elon isn't about that life, and Mark was. He was ready, right? It's like,
well, remember when Trump threatened to fight Biden or something a few years ago or something like that?
He said he could take him, whatnot. Mr. Jabba the Hutt. Look, he always talks heavy or whatnot. But I will also say, like, y'all talk like people who've never spent a night just going down World Star Hip Hop videos of fight videos. They're very alluring. They're addicting. I'm sorry. Like you started. And then all of a sudden, it's 2 hours later. You watching fight after fight after fight. Well, I'm not gonna. I'm gonna. I should just own it myself.
Yeah, you should just own it.
Yeah, nah, bro.
You should just own that. That's a you thing. I didn't want to leave it by yourself, but yeah, that's a you thing.
I didn't like that when it was hot. I used to hate that stuff.
It's addictive. I'm just telling you. The moment you hear World Star in a video, it's about to be a good.
That's bad for your psyche, brother. That stuff rots the mind.
It is, but you know what? After days of all the respectability stuff, I think that's one of the reasons that people do like to see them. People like LeBron and others, do this sort of thing because it shows that you're not all perfectly clean and you're human, right? Like there's a way you can be Michael Jackson or Whitney Houston. In the beginning of their careers, you're supposed to be all Mr. Clean and never step out. So after a while, you don't seem like a real person until you snap on somebody or until you have a moment, whatever. And maybe that's why people like it. They like to see that the people that they idolize are real. Have a real moment. Yeah, maybe you could tell me different. I don't remember Michael Jordan ever having a moment that I remember where he was just like, I'm tired of your shit or something like that.
I do. On the court.
Yeah, he has a ton. And The Last Dance. He just
the last what? Would you say?
The Last Dance, he let everybody have it. In his Hall of Fame speech, he let everybody have it. And also, Mike throw hands. So like he's had fights with. They've all
You remember,
Yeah.
you remember
Yeah.
back in the day,
Yeah.
every time Chicago fought with Detroit, it was a fight. Him
It's
and Bill
a fight.
Lambizi, and White used to damn near square off like every game and stuff. Remember that?
And then he went and started lifting weights and built the Breakfast Club. He created the Breakfast Club, like where he gained all that muscle and then once he started winning, he never lost again. I would say this though, man. I think like first off, thank y'all. We are over 970 people live right now. Please continue to share. Please continue to comment. It's just 950 alone on Torrance feed. So my little 15 is adding in. And here's now we have $9,070. That's from Eddie Murphy. If y'all don't know, go read, go watch the stuff. But like I said, I didn't present this one well. My thing was it's two people that I really respect and admire, and I'm seeing two men come outside of themselves. They both had moments where they came outside of themselves.
Okay, yeah. Well, actually, let me bring this all home. Let me bring this back to the beginning. You know, I'm watching this, and I'm watching LeBron, and I just feel like he's doing too much.
Yeah,
like nobody.
Jasmine Crockett thing. That's fine. I agree.
I feel like we don't need him doing all that. He knows he's not like.
I don't think he does. I don't think he should either. I have the same argument.
No, I agree, but
I feel like he sees the trend of other people getting arrested in basketball and getting salty with people and whatnot. And because he saw the trend, I think he's just acting this way to put on because he wants people to.
I mean, I can match your petty.
I mean, that's definitely a
I got this.
I mean, all right, go ahead. You got it. Go ahead.
I will say this. I do think LeBron is coming out of himself. And I think he has a good reason because of it's his son per se. But I think he is lying when he says he doesn't orchestrate these things. I think he is not being truthful when he says when he's not setting up things behind the scenes or that he didn't go on Pat McAfee purposely because he knows Stephen A. and Pat McAfee. It's rumored that they don't really see eye to eye in those things. I think he is being very petty, and I think it's beneath him. The same way I think that if old girl is not being true to herself, I think it's beneath her too. And I think the way that Stephen A. Smith is trying to bring up stuff and saying I didn't go personal and trying to allude to things, I think that's beneath them. We talking about three black people who are acting beneath themselves right now in this moment. I'm not afraid to stand on that square, and I admire all three of those people and what they have done. And I just think that we are smarter as black people, and that shit can't keep working. Like if somebody just starts to hit you with some jive language or something like that, that don't make you more black. Leaning towards ignorant shit is not the band of blackness that people think it is, and I do think people tired of hearing that shit.
So let me I'll try this out because I don't know where this is going to go. Just quickly. Like,
man, if he would have touched me, I would have swung. He would have beat my ass, bro. You're not swinging on LeBron James, bro.
I'm just telling you right now that's not even a fight. There's not even a question there. Like you have to be. You'd have to be.
What he thinks black people wants to hear, and I think it's beneath him. He is worth $100 million. You're not swinging on anybody in the middle of Staples Center, bro.
Yeah.
That was crazy. That was the part that was nuts.
Okay. Listen, y'all. I got a situation. I got a situation that I got to run and take care of. Yeah.
This was great, though.
This has been great. This has been Three the Hard Way. For people listening and watching and coming, thank you, all of you coming, and feel free whenever you see this to comment and to share and to like it and to send it other places. We just jumped on tonight. We just thought we was going to jump out there and do it and hit record, and that's what we did, and hit stream. So we're out there. We'll be doing this again, though. Y'all want to tell them when we will be doing this?
Torn.
Yes.
We're gonna try to do this at least twice a week. So it's Sunday. So we're gonna try to get together on Wednesday, do this again, and then we'll some new topics come up. We'll play around with it again. Again, we try to keep it real informal, real chill. We keep it rather relaxed over here. But the only deal is that everybody be respectful. And you got three intelligent, respectful brothers here. So far it's off to a good start. We're gonna keep it going. So just keep your eyes open for it.
Ain't nobody don't like each other. Ain't none of that. This is just good conversation. So we appreciate all y'all for watching this and share it. We'll see y'all next time. Peace.
All good.
Peace.